At Denver Memorial Hospital, I was recovering from what doctors called a minor heart episode when my night nurse leaned close to my ear. "Don't drink anything your daughter brings you. Pretend you're asleep. Your life depends on it." Her voice was barely a whisper, her eyes darting toward the door. I thought she was joking. Then she pressed a small button into my palm and added, "Press this if they come back tonight. Security will be here in 60 seconds. 2 hours later, I watched through half-closed eyes as my own daughter crept into my room at 3 a.m., holding a syringe she definitely didn't get from any nurse's station. Comment below where you're watching this from and what time it is right now. Because at 3 a.m. in that hospital room, I realized the person I trusted most in the world had come to finish what she'd started 3 days earlier. My name is Harold Mitchell, and at 63, I thought I understood betrayal. I'd spent 40 years building Mitchell Construction from a two-man crew into one of Colorado's largest commercial builders. I'd survived 3 market crashes, 2 business partners who tried to cheat me, and a lawsuit that nearly took everything. But nothing could have prepared me for what my daughter was about to do. 8 months ago, pancreatic cancer took my wife of 35 years. Dorothy fought for 6 months before her body gave out. Her final words still haunt me every night. "Harold, I know you love our children, but promise me you'll protect yourself. Rachel isn't who she pretends to be, and our son is too weak to see it. Promise me." I dismissed her warning as the paranoia of a dying woman. Dorothy had never warmed to Rachel, our son Kevin's wife of 4 years. She'd called her calculating, manipulative, a woman who married our boy for his last name, not his heart. I thought she was being an overprotective mother. I should have listened. The heart episode that landed me in Denver Memorial wasn't random. 3 days before that night nurse saved my life, I'd collapsed at a family dinner celebrating my grandson's 5th birthday. The doctors couldn't explain why a man with no history of heart problems suddenly went into cardiac distress. They ran every test imaginable and found nothing conclusive. What they didn't know was that my daughter-in-law had been slowly poisoning me for weeks. Kevin and Rachel had moved back to Denver 6 months after Dorothy's death. They said they wanted to be closer to me, to help me through my grief. Kevin had left a good job in Seattle to take over a division of Mitchell Construction. Rachel immediately inserted herself into every aspect of my life, managing my calendar, organizing my medications, even cooking most of my meals. "You shouldn't be alone, Dad," Kevin had said when they first proposed the arrangement. "Mom would have wanted us to take care of you." Rachel had nodded with that practiced sympathy she'd perfected. "We're family, Harold. Family takes care of each other." The irony of those words would become clear soon enough. I also have a daughter, Susan, 40 years old, a pediatrician in Boston. She'd been against Kevin and Rachel moving in from the start. "Something's off about that woman, Dad," she'd warned during one of our weekly phone calls. "The way she looks at you, at the house, at everything you own, it's like she's taking inventory." Susan sounded exactly like her mother. I told her she was being paranoid. That was my second mistake. The night nurse who saved my life was named Maria Santos. She'd worked at Denver Memorial for 15 years and had seen enough suspicious family behavior to trust her instincts. What made her suspicious was catching Rachel in the medication room at 2 a.m., claiming she was looking for extra blankets. Blankets aren't stored in medication rooms. Maria had quietly alerted hospital security, who reviewed the surveillance footage. What they saw prompted an immediate call to the Denver Police Department's Financial Crimes Unit, who had apparently been investigating Rachel for months. The morning after Rachel's 3 a.m. visit, I found myself in a private conference room with Detective James Thornton, a 30-year veteran who specialized in inheritance fraud. "Mr. Mitchell, what I'm about to show you is going to be difficult to watch." He turned his laptop toward me. The screen showed surveillance footage from my own home, captured by a security system I didn't even know had been installed. There was Rachel in my kitchen, opening a prescription bottle and adding drops from a small vial. The timestamp showed this happening repeatedly over 6 weeks. "Jesus Christ," I whispered. "The substance is a cardiac glycoside derived from foxglove," Detective Thornton explained. "In small doses over time, it causes symptoms that mimic natural heart disease. Your collapse at your grandson's birthday party was the culmination of 6 weeks of poisoning." I gripped the table, my mind racing back to all those home-cooked meals. The special teas Rachel insisted were good for my health, the way she'd hover over me while I ate. "How did you know to investigate her?" "Anonymous tip 8 months ago," right after your wife passed. Someone who knew Rachel from her previous life. Previous life? Thornton's expression darkened. Rachel isn't who she claims to be. Her real name is Rachel Brennan. 7 years ago, she was a person of interest in the death of a wealthy widower in Arizona. He died of apparent heart failure. The case was never solved, but Rachel inherited everything as his caregiver. She disappeared before investigators could build a case. My blood ran cold. She's done this before. We believe so. And we believe your son is now involved, whether willingly or under coercion. Kevin would never hurt me. Mr. Mitchell, we have recordings. He pressed play on another video. This one showed Kevin and Rachel in what looked like a hotel room, their voices captured by what must have been a hidden microphone. The birthday party dose didn't work. Rachel's voice was sharp with frustration. He should have died at the hospital, but that nurse kept interfering. Maybe we should stop, Kevin said, his voice shaking. This is my father, Rachel. My father. Your father who's worth $40 million. Your father whose company should have been yours years ago. Your father who's about to change his will to leave everything to Susan because he thinks she's the responsible one. How do you know that? I saw the draft on his desk. If we don't act now, we get nothing. And those people in Vegas won't wait forever, Kevin. They made that very clear. The video ended. I sat in stunned silence. Your son owes approximately $450,000 to a criminal organization in Las Vegas, Detective Thornton said. Online gambling debt that spiraled out of control over the past 2 years. Rachel has been managing the debt, but the interest keeps compounding. They've been given a deadline. When? 2 weeks from now. So my son wasn't just weak, he was desperate. And desperation makes people capable of terrible things. What do you want me to do? We need more evidence to ensure conviction. What we have is strong but circumstantial. A good lawyer could argue the home surveillance was illegally obtained, that the hospital footage doesn't show intent. We need them to incriminate themselves directly. You want me to be bait? We want you to give them another opportunity. This time, we'll be watching everything. I thought about Dorothy, about her final warning. I thought about Kevin as a little boy, riding on my shoulders at construction sites. I thought about the man he'd become, or failed to become. I'll do it. 2 days later, I was discharged from the hospital with a clean bill of health and a wire sewn into my jacket lining. The official story was that my heart episode was stress-related, nothing serious. Kevin and Rachel picked me up, all smiles and concern. We were so worried, Dad, Kevin said, helping me into the car. The doctors said it was probably just overwork. Maybe it's time to think about retirement. You've been pushing yourself too hard since Mom died, Rachel added from the front seat. You should let Kevin take over more of the business. Reduce your stress. The transition talk was starting already. I played along. Maybe you're right. I've been thinking about making some changes. I saw them exchange a glance in the rearview mirror. Hope and greed mingled in their eyes. Actually, I continued, I've been thinking about taking a trip. A cruise to Alaska. Dorothy and I always talked about seeing the glaciers. Maybe it's time I did it in her memory. A cruise? Rachel's voice was carefully neutral. That sounds lovely. But is that wise so soon after your hospital stay? The doctors said normal activity is fine. In fact, they encouraged it. Getting away might be exactly what I need. Then we should come with you, Kevin said quickly. Family trip. We can bring Ethan. He'd love to see whales. Exactly what I'd hoped they'd suggest. That's a wonderful idea. I'll book us a suite on the Royal Glacier Line. They have a beautiful ship that does a week-long route through the Inside Passage. Rachel's eyes lit up. A cruise ship. Thousands of miles from home. Limited medical facilities. Lots of opportunities for accidents. When were you thinking? She asked. Next week. Life's too short to wait. The SS Northern Crown departed from Seattle on a crisp October morning, carrying 1,500 passengers toward the glaciers of Alaska. Our family suite occupied the top deck, with a private balcony overlooking the endless Pacific. Kevin carried 5-year-old Ethan on his shoulders as we boarded, the picture of a loving father. Rachel linked her arm through mine, playing the devoted daughter-in-law. To anyone watching, we looked like a happy family taking a healing vacation after loss. The FBI had 3 agents on board, posing as passengers. Agent Maria Reyes, who I'd met briefly before boarding, was supposedly a retired teacher traveling alone. She sat 2 tables away from us at dinner. The first day passed without incident. We watched the coastline slide by, attended a welcome reception, let Ethan play in the kids' club. Rachel was attentive, making sure I ate well, checking on my comfort constantly. Each kindness felt like a knife. On the second night, it began. "Dad, you look tired," Kevin said after dinner. "Why don't you head back to the room? Rachel and I will take Ethan to the magic show." "Actually, I thought I'd take a walk on the deck. Get some fresh air." "The deck?" Rachel's voice sharpened. "It's dark out there, Harold. And windy. That's not safe for someone recovering from a heart episode." "I'll be fine. The doctor said exercise is good for me. At least take your medication first." She handed me 2 pills and a glass of water. "Your evening dose." I looked at the pills. They looked like my regular blood pressure medication, but I knew better than to trust anything from her hands. "You know what? I forgot I already took them before dinner. Old man memory." I laughed. A flash of frustration crossed her face before she smoothed it into a smile. "Are you sure? Missing doses can be dangerous." "Positive. Don't worry about me. Enjoy the magic show." I spent the next hour walking the upper deck, Agent Reyes keeping a discreet distance behind me. The Alaska coastline was a dark shadow against the stars. I thought about what came next, about whether I had the strength to see this through. Day 3 brought rougher seas and Rachel's second attempt. "Dad, you should try the ship's spa," she suggested at breakfast. "They have a wonderful sauna. Heat therapy is great for circulation." "That sounds relaxing. I'll book you a session this afternoon." Private room, very peaceful. What she didn't mention was that extreme heat could trigger cardiac events in someone who'd been poisoned with cardiac glycosides. The residue was still in my system, making me vulnerable. Agent Reyes intercepted me before the spa appointment. "We've detected elevated temperature controls in the private sauna room. It's been set to dangerous levels." "How dangerous?" "Potentially fatal for someone with your recent cardiac history." I kept the appointment anyway, but the FBI had quietly adjusted the temperature controls back to normal. When Rachel checked on me afterward, I could see the confusion on her face. "How do you feel?" "Wonderful. Very refreshed." Her jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "That's good. That's really good." Day 4. We'd reached Glacier Bay, and the ship anchored for a day of scenic viewing. Passengers lined the decks to watch massive ice formations calve into the sea. "Dad, let's go to the observation deck," Kevin suggested. "Best views on the ship." The observation deck was a narrow platform at the very front of the ship, surrounded by a low railing. Perfect for photographs, perfect for accidents. Rachel had Ethan in the kids' club. It was just the 3 of us. "Stand right here, Dad." Kevin positioned me against the railing. "I'll get the glacier in the background." The railing hit me at mid-thigh, a push from behind, and I'd go over into water cold enough to kill in minutes. "Actually, son, let's take one together." I pulled him to stand beside me, my arm firmly around his shoulder. If I was going over, he was coming with me. His body went rigid. "I'll take the photo." Agent Reyes appeared, smiling. "You gentlemen look like you could use a family portrait." The relief on Kevin's face was mixed with something else. Frustration, but also maybe gratitude. Like part of him was glad to be stopped. That night, I found a note slipped under my door. Rachel's handwriting. "We need to talk. Meet me on the aft deck at midnight. Alone. This isn't what you think." It was exactly what I thought. The aft deck at midnight would be deserted. The waters below would be dark and freezing. I showed the note to Agent Reyes. "She's making her move. We'll have agents positioned at every exit. The moment she shows intent, we'll intervene." "No. Let it play out. I need to hear her say it. I need to understand why." At midnight, I walked onto the aft deck. Rachel was already there, leaning against the railing, the ship's wake churning white beneath her. "Harold, thank you for coming. You said you wanted to talk." She turned to face me, and for the first time, I saw her without the mask. Her eyes were cold, calculating, the warmth I'd always seen revealed as nothing but performance. "I know you suspect something, the way you've been avoiding your medication, refusing food I prepare. You're not as oblivious as I thought. What gave me away? You're too healthy. After 6 weeks, you should be dead by now. Instead, you're walking around like nothing happened." She stepped closer. "Who told you?" Does it matter? It matters because someone betrayed me, and I don't tolerate betrayal. Interesting choice of words from someone who married into my family to kill me. She laughed, a cold sound that matched the Alaskan air. Kill you? I'm trying to save my family, Harold. Your son, your grandson. They'd be out on the street if we don't do something. Those people in Vegas don't negotiate. They take. So this is mercy? Murdering me for my money is an act of love? You have $40 million and 2 children. If you just divided the estate fairly, none of this would be necessary. But no, you're rewriting your will to give everything to Susan because Kevin made some mistakes. Mistakes? He owes $500,000 to criminals. And whose fault is that? You never gave him real responsibility. You always treated him like a child, never trusted him to prove himself. So he found other ways to feel like a man. The gambling started as a way to feel powerful, to be in control of something. I stared at her, seeing the twisted logic she'd built to justify murder. Where's Kevin right now? Putting Ethan to bed. He doesn't know I'm here. He's too weak for this part. Too weak to kill his father directly, but not too weak to let you do it? He doesn't have a choice anymore. Neither do you. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a syringe. This will look like another hard episode. Natural causes. By the time anyone finds you, I'll be back in our suite, sleeping beside my husband. And if I don't cooperate? She glanced at the dark water below. Then you fall overboard in the night. Tragic accident. Either way, this ends tonight. One question first. What? Was any of it real? The kindness after Dorothy died? The family dinners? The way you played with Ethan in front of me? Was any of it genuine? For a moment, something flickered in her eyes. Not quite guilt, but recognition. The sad part? Some of it was. You're not a bad man, Harold. Just a rich one. In another life, maybe we could have been a real family. She raised the syringe. I am sorry about this. FBI, don't move. Agent Reyes emerged from the shadows, weapon drawn. 2 more agents appeared behind me. Rachel's face went white as handcuffs clicked around her wrists. Rachel Brennan, you're under arrest for attempted murder, conspiracy to commit murder, and fraud. As they led her away, she turned back to me one last time. Tell Kevin I love him. Tell him I was trying to save us. I said nothing. The next morning, in the ship's security office, I sat across from my son. He'd aged 10 years overnight. His face hollow, his eyes red from crying. The cuffs on his wrists made him look like a stranger. Dad, not yet. I need you to answer one question honestly, and your answer will determine what happens next. He nodded, unable to meet my eyes. Did you know what she was doing? The silence stretched between us, filled with 30 years of memories. Teaching him to throw a baseball, walking him down the aisle at his wedding, holding Ethan for the first time in the hospital. I knew, he whispered finally. Not at first, but when you collapsed at Ethan's birthday party, she told me everything. What she'd been doing, what she needed me to do, and you went along with it. I was scared, Dad. Those people in Vegas, they showed me photos of what happens to people who don't pay. They said they'd hurt Rachel, hurt Ethan. I didn't know what else to do. You could have come to me. And admit what? That I'd gambled away everything? That I'd failed at the one thing you'd finally trusted me with? You already thought I was worthless. This would have proved it. I closed my eyes, seeing the little boy he used to be superimposed over the broken man before me. I never thought you were worthless, Kevin. Reckless, yes. Immature, sometimes, but never worthless. Then why didn't you ever give me a real chance? Every decision at the company, you second-guessed. Every idea I had, you shot down. Mom was the only one who believed in me, and now she's gone. Your mother saw what I refused to see. She saw that Rachel was dangerous, and she was right. But she also saw that you needed help, not more responsibility. Help I should have given you instead of leaving you to struggle alone. The anger in his eyes faded into something worse. Shame. What happens now? I reached into my jacket and pulled out the legal documents I'd had prepared before we boarded. I'm going to pay off your gambling debts. Every penny. Those people in Vegas will have no reason to come after you or Ethan. Relief flooded his face. Dad, thank you. I promise I'll pay you back. I'll spend the rest of my life making this right. I'm not finished. I slid the documents across the table. These are statements for the FBI, confirming your involvement in the conspiracy. You're going to sign them, and you're going to testify against Rachel. Testify against my wife? The woman who manipulated you into helping murder your father. But if I testify, you'll serve time, less than her, because you cooperated. But yes, you'll go to prison. His face crumpled. Dad, please, think about Ethan. He needs his father. Ethan needs a father worth looking up to. Right now, you're a man who helped plan his grandfather's murder. Is that who you want your son to know? But if I go to prison, your mother made me promise to take care of you. This is how I do that, by making sure you face the consequences of your choices, by giving you the chance to become the man I know you can be. I stood up and walked toward the door. When you get out, if you've truly changed, there will be something waiting for you. A trust fund. Enough to start over. But only if you earn it. Only if you become someone your mother would have been proud of. And Ethan? Susan is flying in tomorrow. She'll take temporary custody. Your son will be safe, loved, and told that his father made mistakes, but is working hard to become better. I opened the door. That part is up to you. Dad, wait. I turned. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. For everything. Looking at my son, handcuffed and broken, I felt something I hadn't expected. Hope. Not for who he was, but for who he might become. Prove it. Not with words. With actions. That's the only apology I'll accept. I walked out without looking back. The trial lasted 3 weeks. Rachel received 22 years for premeditated attempted murder and fraud. Kevin received 7 years for conspiracy, reduced because of his cooperation and testimony. The day they were both sentenced, I sat in the courtroom with Susan and Ethan. My grandson was too young to understand what was happening, only that his parents had to go away for a while and that Grandpa and Aunt Susan would take care of him. Where's Mommy going? He asked, as they led Rachel out in handcuffs. Mommy made some wrong choices, Susan said gently. She has to go somewhere to think about them for a while. Will she come back? I looked at my daughter-in-law one last time as she disappeared through the courthouse doors. The mask was completely gone now. The face underneath was hard, angry, already calculating her next move. Maybe someday, I said. People can change. But it takes time. 6 months later, I sat in my Denver home, reading a letter that had arrived from the federal penitentiary in Colorado. Dad, it began. I know I don't deserve to write to you. I know you probably won't read this. But the counselor here says that healing starts with honesty, so I'm going to try. I think about the day you taught me to ride a bike. I was 7, and I kept falling, and you kept picking me up. You never got frustrated. You just kept saying, "One more try, Kevin. You've almost got it." I wish I'd remembered that when things got hard. Instead of coming to you, I tried to handle everything myself, and I made choice after choice that led me here. I've started going to therapy. Real therapy, not just the mandatory sessions. I'm learning about how I used gambling to escape, how I let Rachel make decisions because I was too scared to make my own. I'm learning that being a man doesn't mean never asking for help. It means having the courage to admit when you're wrong. I don't expect forgiveness. What I did is unforgivable. But I want you to know that I'm trying to become someone worthy of being Ethan's father. Someone worthy of the Mitchell name. Mom would be ashamed of what I did. I think about that every day. But I also think about what she would say now, if she could see me trying to change. I think she'd say, "One more try, Kevin. You've almost got it. I love you, Dad. Whatever happens, I want you to know that. Your son, Kevin." I read the letter 3 times, then walked to the window. Denver stretched before me, the Rocky Mountains rising in the distance like silent guardians. Dorothy's voice echoed in my memory. "Promise me you'll take care of our children." I'd kept that promise, just not in the way either of us had expected. I'd saved my son's life from the loan sharks and saved his soul from becoming a murderer. The cost was high, but maybe, just maybe, it would be worth it. In the next room, I could hear Ethan playing with Susan's kids, his laughter mixing with theirs. Family, real family, the kind that loves without conditions or calculations. That night, I wrote back to Kevin. "Dear son," I began. "Your mother once told me that the hardest choices are the right ones. Sending you to prison was the hardest choice I've ever made. But watching you begin to understand why was the first moment I felt hope in a long time. Keep trying. Keep growing. Become the man Ethan deserves as a father. When you're ready, truly ready, I'll be here. Your father. Looking back at everything that happened, I realize I made a crucial mistake that nearly cost me my life. I ignored the warnings from the people who loved me most. Dorothy tried to tell me about Rachel. Susan tried to tell me. I was too proud, too stubborn, too convinced that I understood my own family. This true story taught me that real family isn't about blood or legal documents or shared last names. Real family is about trust, loyalty, and love that doesn't come with conditions or price tags. My daughter Susan showed me more genuine care in 6 months than Kevin and Rachel had in 4 years. I share this story because I know I'm not alone. Too many parents have children who see them as inheritance rather than family. Too many grandparents have been manipulated by people who married into their lives with hidden agendas. If my experience helps even one person recognize the warning signs before it's too late, then reliving this painful chapter was worth it. God gave me a second chance when that night nurse trusted her instincts. God gave me Susan and Ethan and the chance to build something real from the ashes of betrayal. And maybe, just maybe, God gave Kevin a chance too. Prison is a harsh teacher, but sometimes it's the only classroom where certain lessons can be learned. What about you? Have you ever had to choose between family loyalty and your own survival? Have you ever had to let someone face consequences because you loved them too much to let them destroy themselves? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more real-life stories that matter. Because in the end, the stories we share might be the warnings that save someone else's life.